love to see it. Ew, okay, I don't think I like this. Ew. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. For today's video, I'm going to be doing the bar and the bookcase tag. I was tagged by Leah from Tea with Leah, and of course, as per usual, I'll put her video down below. Definitely check her out. 10 out of 10, we love her. Yeah, she tagged me about forever ago, and I'm barely doing it now. But you know what? It's fine. We're getting it done. It's all good. So for this tag, I believe you kind of need to have a cocktail, or like the whole vibe is that you have a cocktail with you, you're drinking, having a good time, chatting about books. And if I'm being completely honest, I'm not really a cocktail kind of girl. The most cocktail thing I'll get from the bar is a rum and coke or a tequila soda. I'm not like a fancy cocktail kind of girl. So therefore I don't really have alcohol here at my house to make a fancy cocktail. So with that being said, I do have a Truly lemonade. So this is what I will be drinking today. 10 out of 10. Also, I just want to mention, I tried to choose books for these prompts that I haven't spoken about before because I feel like I tend to talk about the same books over and over again. So I tried to pick some ones that I haven't really spoken about, but some of them I have to use, you know, my tried and true answers, because some of them I honestly could not find or think of any books to talk about. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started. So the first one is an old fashioned, and this is a historical fiction recommendation. And I don't really read too many historical fictions, but I did read this one that I'm gonna mention last year and I really enjoyed it. And that is The Fountains of Silence by Rita Sepetys. This one is set in 1950s Madrid. It's set in fascist Spain, and it is under the dictatorship of General Franco. And you're really just following these characters and their lives living in fascist Spain at the time. There's a bit of a romance in this, and I did really enjoy that aspect of it. And I just thought that this was a really interesting story. I've never read anything about Spain, period, and I definitely never read anything about the fascist dictatorship of General Franco. This one was really good. I definitely recommend it. All right, the next prompt we have is sidecar, and I believe I've had a sidecar before. It was really strong. I was like, you know, dying. But this one is a book with a strong supporting character. I had a really hard time thinking about a book for this one, if I'm being completely honest. I couldn't really think of anything. The only thing that kept pounding into my brain was the Diviner series. And I know I've talked about this plenty of times, but you know what? It's for a good reason. The Diviner series is so good, and I think the characters are some of the strongest, most well-written, well-fleshed out characters that I've read in a while. I just absolutely adore all of them. Jericho and Sam, 10 out of 10. Let me know if you ever read The Diviners, if you were Team Jericho or Team Sam. I switched it around all the time. That's a good love triangle. Definitely let me know. I'm curious. The next book is a Manhattan, which that sounds fancy. I've never had a Manhattan before, but this is a book set in New York. For this one, I chose The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. I have no idea what it is about this book. This book means a lot to me, and I can't even describe to you why or pinpoint what exactly about this book moved me in such a way, but it did. And this book will always have a really special place in my heart. In this one, you follow Natasha, and her family is about to get deported, and she's basically spending the whole day trying to talk to immigration lawyers and try to find a way to stop that from happening. While she's out trying to do that, she ends up crossing paths with Daniel. He's a Korean American boy, and he has a Yale interview that day that he's planning on skipping because he does not want to go to Yale. He doesn't want to follow in his parents' footsteps, and they end up crossing paths, like I said, and they kind of just go on this adventure together. And it is very insta love. I know a lot of people have an issue with that, but I think if you take out the insta love aspect of this book, I think it is just really amazing. It's really good. I absolutely adored this book and this story, and I think it's a very important story as well, and there's so many important themes explored in this. I highly recommend. Next is A Bloody Mary, and that is a book that scared you or messed you up. Without a doubt, Salem's Lot by Stephen King. I absolutely loved this. This book literally freaked me out so bad. I was just so scared. I would go outside to take out the trash and I was like so paranoid, and like it was just a whole thing. I've never been actually scared or like so deeply unsettled by a book like I was by Salem's Lot. So I highly recommend it to absolutely everyone. It was really great. Next, we have an espresso martini. That sounds delicious. I've never had one of those. And this is a book that kept you reading into the night. For this one, I chose One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. This one is, I feel like, kind of an unconventional one for this prompt, because this prompt was probably meant for you to mention like a thriller or something really like fast-paced and exciting. And this is a romance. It's a contemporary romance. But the thing about this book is that I was obsessed because I am a member of Bachelor Nation, okay? I'm not afraid to admit it. I love reality dating shows. They're so fun to me. I love reality shows, period. They're just so good. This book is essentially The Bachelorette in a book format with plus size representation. Does that not sound like the literal best thing you've ever heard of in your life? It does to me. I adored this book. I think it was so realistic, and I think the plus size representation was done really well. I just feel like if you want a fun time, if you want to read some good shit, I think you should definitely read this. My only gripe with this, that I literally finished the book and I was like, what? This book had no smut, and like absolutely atrocious. Like, I get people don't like to read smut, but I'm like, not even like fade to black. Like, it wasn't even fade to black smut. I was really upset. I was like honestly upset. That's my only gripe with this book, because other than that, this book is amazing and it's so good, but I was distraught, if I'm being completely honest. Speaking of being distraught, the next prompt is for Sazerac. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I've never heard of that, but this is a book that left you disoriented, and this without a doubt has to be Bunny by Mona Awad. This book is the only book ever that I have ever read and still have yet to rate on Goodreads, and I don't think I will ever rate it on Goodreads. I have absolutely no idea how I feel about it. I could not tell you what I liked about it. I could not tell you what I didn't like about it. I just left the book extremely confused. I was no thoughts, head empty the entire time, and I still have zero thoughts on this book. Like, I'm still disoriented thinking about this book. So do with that what you will. That's all I got for you. Next, we have a Long Island iced tea. And for this one, the prompt is a book that is doing too much, and then it says bonus points if it works anyway. And I had a really hard time thinking about what I wanted to talk about for this prompt, because honestly, I can't really think of anything that's actually like doing too much. I haven't really read a book like that. So for this one, it's kind of a cop-out, but I will mention Legend Born by Tracy Dion. I don't think this book was doing too much. However, I think it was doing a lot. I absolutely loved this book, and by the end of it, I think everything really made sense. Everything was connected. Everything was very important and necessary to move the plot along. But there was just so many different aspects in this book, and the magic system was extremely complex for an urban fantasy that I think it was just a lot, and I wasn't expecting it to be a lot. But like I said, this is an instance where it works. I don't think that it was doing too much. It was just so much information being thrown at you, so much happening at once, such a complex magic system. It was a bit confusing, if I'm being honest, but it all worked out in the end. It all ended up making sense once you really got a grasp on what was happening, and it was amazing. So definitely read this book if you haven't already. Next, we have a Negroni, which is a book with a love triangle. And this is basically any YA fantasy series. They're all love triangles. But I would have to say one of my favorite ones is the Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson. And specifically The Kiss of Deception, which is the first book in the series. That book is very love triangle centric. That's kind of basically the whole plot of the first one. But the second two books are a lot more like political intrigue and really, really good. So I just highly recommend the whole series in general. But in this one, you are following Leah, and she is a princess, and she's betrothed to this prince of a neighboring kingdom. And she does not want to get married. She doesn't want to get married. She doesn't want to be the heir to the throne. She's just over it. So she ends up running away, and the prince that she's betrothed to gets sent to go find her. At the same time, in a different kingdom, an assassin is also sent to go find her so that he can assassinate her. And the really fun thing about this book is that the entire way through, you have no idea which boy is which. This story is told from the 3 perspectives, and when Leah meets these 2 guys, you have no clue which one is the assassin and which one is the prince. So it makes it a really fun story. It makes it really interesting. And I think it's nice because then you don't really have any bias towards who you like and who you want her to be with, because I feel like sometimes in love triangles, if your type is like the broody bad boy, like you're like, ooh, I want her to be the assassin, you know what I mean? And so it's nice because you don't really know who's who. Like, you're just confused the whole time and you're like, what's the vibe? Who would I like? Highly recommend this book. Highly recommend this book series. And we love to see the love triangle. All right, next we have Bay Breeze, and this is a book with light, chill, heartwarming vibes. And of course, I have to mention The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I don't shut up about this book. I absolutely adore this book. It's one of my favorite books that I've read this year, probably one of my favorite books I've read ever, and I'm just obsessed with this. This book has the most heartwarming vibes. It is so just sweet and wonderful. You have a found family trope, you have a queer love story, you just have these adorable, funny, chaotic children, and it's just a blast. We love to see it. It's not getting easier. Oh my god. I literally think I only drink these when I'm drunk or something. So the next prompt is Dark and Stormy, and this is a book that's dark, thrilling, and menacing, and then bonus points if the setting matches. And honestly, for this one, I really wanted to choose The Guest List by Lucy Foley because the setting 1000% matches that vibe. But I decided I wanted to try to look for something different because, like I said, I was trying to not be repeating the same books, even though I repeated a lot of books in this. It's fine. It's fine. So I chose The Shining by Stephen King. I think this book is extremely dark and menacing, and it's really good. I watched the movie before I read the book. If I'm being honest with you, I did not like the movie. Then I read the book, rewatched the movie, and I hated the movie even more after I had read the book. If you have not read the book already, I highly recommend it if you enjoy the movie, because the book is a million times better. You just get so much more insight into Jack and his spiral into madness. It's just really good. I highly recommend it. And it's a very dark, thrilling, and menacing book in my eyes. I was thoroughly creeped out when I read it, so we love that. And lastly, we have a martini, and this is a classic recommendation. I don't really read too many classics, but I believe this qualifies as a classic. I'm unsure, but to me, it gives me classic vibes, so I'm gonna mention it. And it is My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier. And this is by the same author who wrote Rebecca, which I think is a bit more popular of a book. But My Cousin Rachel is really good as well. In this one, you are following Philip. His older cousin Ambrose ends up traveling to Florence for a bit, and he ends up meeting a woman named Rachel. They end up getting married, but then suddenly Ambrose dies. So Rachel ends up going back to the estate. Philip is very suspicious of her. He thinks that she may have had something to do with his cousin's death, and the story just kind of goes from there. I really enjoyed this. I think it was a little bit dense for me at first because when I was going into it, I was not really prepared to read a classic type book, but once I kind of got used to the writing style, I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah, that's my classic recommendation. All right, so that's it for the bar and the bookcase tag. Please let me know if you've read any of the books that I've mentioned, and definitely do this tag. It's really fun. With this one, I do want to tag Steph from Steph's Bookish World, Hallie from Let Hallie Read, and Chloe from Chloe Hamsey Reads. I love the 3 of them. They're some of the best people I have met so far since starting like my booktube kind of journey, and I'm really curious to see how they would answer these. I'm tagging them 3 and obviously whoever else wants to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.